Hi, welcome to DevCentral. My name is Jason Rahm. I'm the manager of the DevCentral community here, and today I have with me, as always, John Wagnon. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's great to be on DC, DevCentral.
Good deal. And today we actually have a guest, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And Eric Flores, am I pronouncing that right? Is it Flores?
That's correct.
All right. Eric is joining us today. He on packetpushers.net released an article actually several months ago, the first iteration of a configuration backup tool for F5s, and just recently, was it in June when you pushed the update?
Yeah, it was late June that the version 3.0 came out.
Okay. Yeah. So he revamped the tool to use iControl, built a awesome little VMware appliance, or wrapped it up so it really is as easy as download it, deploy it, and you're good to go. So, Eric, thank you first of all for the contribution to the community of open source tools out there. It's always exciting to see new uses for the iControl API, and so real quick, do you mind sharing a little bit about your background?
Sure. I want to say real quickly, thanks for having me on this podcast here. It's great to, I guess, be able to have a larger microphone to be able to share my project on. So really appreciate it. So I'm actually a network engineer, but I've been a network engineer for about 7 years. Work at right now a large real estate company and have had background in other companies such as payments, medical field, broadcasting, things of that nature. Started working with F5 probably about 4 years ago. Excuse me. Working with F5 about 4 years ago, and just really been learning. It's widened my knowledge as a network engineer to get away from just standard route switch, firewall, things of that nature, into really deep level applications. Coding, things of that nature. Was actually having to work with iRules is what got me interested into doing any type of coding, because I kind of like the idea of how you could be creative with by programming things and kind of making it do what you want, more or less.
Okay, yeah, I was working with Cisco firewalls back in the day, and there was a major project that I had to change interface nomenclature because we were upgrading from the older PIX firewalls to ASA, and that's kind of where I started doing a little bit of coding. And then we got our F5s, and I was like, oh well, I think I could do that, and started playing with the API. And so that's really when my love affair of software kind of kicked off, the same as with iRules. And so you say you network engineer by trade. How did you is it just iRules that you got you into coding, or was there any other kind of just generic scripting that you did ahead of that?
I think it was pretty much just the F5 that got the kickstart. When I started having to do iRules, and that's when I first got interested in Tickle, and having to learn that and understand the process flow of programming, more or less. And then also having the F5 also started me to start learning some Bash scripting, which I had barely maybe touched on a couple of times in the previous, 3-4 years at that time. So yeah, it was really the F5 through the Bash scripting and the iRules that had got me on this course.
Okay, cool. So with that in mind, you're traditionally networked. Do you find that now, aside from your project, do you find you use code more often in your day-to-day, or is it just for like side projects that make your job easier?
Probably. No, I probably use the iRules as probably the most code that I actually use in my day-to-day job. My current job that I've been in about a year. It's a very large environment. We have probably 19 F5s and 700 applications behind our F5s. So there was a lot more that I was exposed to and had to come up with. So iRules, I probably don't do them like hours and hours on end per day, but work with APM, getting APM set up, having to do a lot of iRules for customization of that. things of that nature. And the Python thing or the scripting is something that I'm starting to try to introduce more. But usually the fires that you have to put out during a normal day kind of take up all the time that you would normally have for that.
I understand completely. Yeah.
Hey, so Eric, I had a quick question. iRules are obviously a great tool that a lot of F5 users use, and it's one thing that draws a lot of people into DevCentral, and a lot of people have a lot of iRules questions, and a lot of people think DevCentral, they think iRules, which is great. And so maybe tell us one use case or one iRule that you've written that kind of helped you out a little bit, and maybe not all the specifics, but just some generalities.
Written quite a few actually.
Awesome.
Let me see. We wrote one. I wrote one a couple months ago, probably 6 months ago, that getting public IP addresses is getting much harder these days.
Yeah.
So trying to create a simple way to integrate or to do name-based virtual hosting on the F5 was something that I wanted to figure out. But I didn't necessarily want to have to make it some manual process where you had to change the iRule every time you needed to present another website, or a data group that you had to know exactly how to edit a data group. So I was able to make a iRule that went to two separate data groups. One, if it did two functions, if you had to do any type of redirects, it would look in a data group to match the URL or the domain name, or the full domain name with the URI at the end of it. And then if it didn't have any redirects, it'd go up and look the host name to see which pool to assign that to. Now I didn't want to leave it just at that, because if I made that, then I would probably be the only one to support it. So when I went ahead and also integrated IAPS with that, so that when you make changes, you can actually go to IAPS, say select this custom IAP that we made, and answer a bunch of questions that was just like, what's the name of the website? What's the domain name? Do you want to create a new pool or use an existing pool? What are the pool members' IP addresses? What health checks do you want to use? Things of that nature.
Yep. Awesome. And I tell you, talk about IAPS. That's a great word on IAPS, where you can really make it that simple for for people that are building that out. You can ask them just basic questions like that, and then let the IAP and all the rest do the hard work on the back end. Mm-hmm. Really, really cool functionality. Awesome.
I like the GUIfication. That's a word. It's not a word. I just coined it.
I think it is now.
So with this full-on SDN assault that the networking industry is seeing, if you had 3 skills in your toolbox you could carry forward, if you're being deported to the SDN island and the only 3 skills you can bring with you, what do you have a short list?
Well, this is kind of the one thing I'm wondering about the direction of SDN. Everybody is kind of, you see it on packet pushers a lot, and described throughout the industry that it's going to make networking a white box affair. You'll no longer be buying expensive solutions from, Cisco, Juniper, or whatever, which X vendor, that you could buy a cheap switch from vendor X and use a controller from vendor Y. And I kind of really don't think it's going to take that direction. I mean, there might be some people that might do it, because you could do that essentially with servers now. But what I think is going to happen is most CIOs are going to look, they're going to say, let's see, I could save millions of dollars, but then something can break and I will get fired, or I could just buy a Cisco turnkey SDN solution or a Juniper turnkey SDN solution, and most likely have one throat to choke and have something that's well supported and well documented. So I'm kind of wondering, they say we're all going to become programmers as network engineers, but I kind of don't think it's going to be that.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be quite that severe, but I do think that some of the reading that I've done is the separating of the classes, where you've had your architects, you've had your operators, and somewhere in the middle is this nebulous layer where the network engineer lives. And as more and more skills are being pushed, either up or down, and being either automated completely, or they're being pushed up, that there's a larger class of network engineers that are shown at least to go away. So I know that coding I guess, is a practical skill that I think is going to be necessary, or at least advisable going forward. But some of the soft skills, just being able to troubleshoot something, is one of those things. If you can troubleshoot something, if you can analyze problems, no matter whether it's a code stack you have to learn, or storage or server, you're gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that probably the guys that are gonna do the best are the ones who are learning their skill set by having the fundamental basics. You see a lot of people in the industry that essentially the only way they've learned how to do anything was to memorize. Well, when everything changes and it's all no longer a CLI, then there's nothing for them to memorize. They're probably going to be the ones that are going to be hurting the most. Whereas the guys who can know how exactly what is ARP, what is MAC addresses, what is layer 2, what is layer 3, those are probably going to be the guys that will just adapt to the new industry.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
All right, so switching gears into the specifics of your solution, what inspired you to build it?
So originally, my previous company, I needed to get backups done. So I knew there was an enterprise manager. I wasn't sure of the price, but the company I was working at was a bit more thrifty. So if it didn't have to do with making money, they necessarily didn't want to make the investment on it. So that's where I just came up with the bash script originally, and I was using SSH, and it just looked at the config files, did a quick SHA-1 hash, and if the hash has changed from day to day, then it would download that. But essentially, wanting to get more into programming, I decided that at first, I went through this debate in my head about a year ago. Should I learn Perl or should I learn Python? So I had no one really to guide me or give me any advice, and I was thinking, I'll just choose Perl because it's an older language, and CPAN seems to have a lot of modules, looks more mature. Excuse me. So essentially, I just ported that same process flow into Perl, what I had in Bash, and then really, made the web interface to go with it out of PHP. And I'm by no means a great PHP coder, but I was able to put something basic together. So that's when the version 2.5 came out about 4 months ago. Probably towards the end of that, though, I met up with John Gruber, I believe he's working with the ACI integration with F5 or something of that nature. I met him at a F5 users conference, and I was asking him about iControl and SOAP, and I was struggling with trying to understand, was it SOAP Lite from Perl?
Yeah.
He said, check this out over here, and he had his laptop, and he showed me Big Suds. So he says, just it pretty much makes it almost like command line iControl.
Yeah.
So it was at that point that I still hadn't introduced the old Perl version yet, and I didn't want to go back and rewrite it before introducing it. So I essentially just got the Perl version out there. Then right after I got the Perl version out, I started working on learning Python and doing the Python port for it, and that just opened a whole plethora of options of information that I can get from via iControl.
Cool, yeah. I'm a big fan of Big Suds. Python for me, I mean, I used Perl quite a bit with config manipulation, text file parsing, and all that. But Python just makes sense to me. The ease in which you can do things, and one of the things I like about Perl is you can do everything with it. That's one of the things I also hate with Perl is that you can do everything with it, and you can be a master Perl coder, and you look at your own code a month later, and you have no idea what it does, because there's so many different ways to approach the same problem. So I'm a big Python fan. Big Suds is a great library. And go ahead.
What's the going joke for Perl? Perl's the one language that looks the same before and after RSA encryption.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, good deal. Hey, I had a quick question for you, Eric. One, I know we talked a little bit about the the project that you did. Is this something you're still working on right now, or are you planning on adding any kind of functionality to it in the future, that kind of thing, or was it just more of a kind of a one-time thing for you?
No, this is, this being the first iteration of Python, it was just kind of a quick and dirty port to Perl, plus adding, the certificate reporting section of it. So as time goes along, I want to continue working on it, adding, things, possibly something like certificate notification, so to notify either via email one person, or maybe even classify it into different groups of, this cert belongs to this application owner, and these group of certs belong to a different set of application owners. Things of that nature. Not quite sure exactly how far I'll go with it, but maybe at some point, if I want to really get hard and heavy into iControl, I might even branch off into another project.
Nice. Perfect. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
So I was going to do a little screen sharing here and kind of walk through my installation of your config backup, but for whatever reason, it's not working, and now my screen is gone. Nope. Am I gone? Yep. All right. So,
yep. There you are. And you're back. And
there I am. So, yeah. So anyway, it's super easy to deploy, and just within minutes, you got all your devices added, and depending on when you set up your backup time, it just works right out of the box. So, any parting thoughts, John?
What? Well, one thing, just kind of maybe administratively, just for the viewers out there. So Eric has his article online at Packet Pushers, and then Jason wrote kind of a follow-up article with the way that you set everything up on DevCentral as well. So just for people out there that maybe want to look at both of those. It's both out there. And so, no, I tell you, just shout out to Eric. Just thank you for being here today. It's like Jason said at the beginning, it's great to hear from users who are out there and use the technology. And you talked about iRules and iApps and iControl and all the I stuff. We just had a programmability guru panel not long ago where we talked about a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of interest in that. And so it's great to hear from users who are really using that and seeing the benefits. So I just appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for the opportunity to be on here.
Yeah,
absolutely. And specific to your iApp solution, there might be opportunities in the near future to share that. So definitely around the agility time, I'll be reaching out to you because there's some exciting opportunities on that front coming forward. Eric, thank you very much for joining us today, and really appreciate your contribution and sharing, the cool stuff you're working on with the Packet Pushers audience, and allowing us to, bring some of that awesomeness into the DevCentral community. And I look forward to seeing the later iterations of your project.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Great,
All
thanks,
right,
Eric.
Appreciate it. Thank you.